what's up, you dirtbags? What you are about to hear is episode number 105. We just wrapped it up. Josh Montanye, one of my favorite guests we've ever had on. He's a good friend of mine. He's a chief business officer at Williams Companies. This is the longest episode we've ever done in history, and I think we could have kept cooking for about another hour, but we wrapped it up. I think we clocked in a little over 2 hours on this one. So we're approaching the Pirates of the Caribbean movie length. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. It is, like I mentioned, one of my favorites. Josh has a very unique perspective. He's been a part of fast growing, huge construction companies, but he also has a very forward thinking, tech-driven mindset, especially when it comes to building teams, building cultures, and knowing how to scale up and break through ceilings. So I'm so curious to hear what you guys think about this. If any of you make it to the end, please shoot us a message and let us know. You'll hear me drop his handle in there a couple times at JMontanye. Go give him a follow on Instagram. You can also find him on LinkedIn. But please shoot me a message. Let me know if you finish this whole episode, because I think it is absolute gold. And also Josh, as you'll hear, has all of these sayings and nuggets that I've never heard that are absolutely incredible. So hope you guys absolutely love this episode. This is episode number 105. A huge thank you to everyone who's been listening, supporting the show. As I mentioned on the last episode, huge shout out to everyone that has reached out for our Phaser fundraiser. I'm not going to go through the whole list of sponsors. You guys have absolutely crushed it with us, and excited to report on the next episode, 106, what we ended up raising for the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes. What you'll see there, you'll be able to see all the details and events and the photos and videos and everything on our Phaser Marketing Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. So make sure to follow us there at Phaser Marketing. Keep up with the fundraiser. It is our 5th annual Phaser fundraiser. So much of the money we've raised, almost, I don't want to say almost all of it, but 80% of it is through people listening to this podcast, is through the construction industry, is through our wonderful clients at Phaser, and through our community in Detroit Lakes. So it's been absolutely incredible getting support from almost every single state, and also other countries as well that want to help our mission to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. So thank you guys. If anyone listening to this podcast wants to pitch in, we do have 3 sponsorship levels. We have our bronze sponsorship at $500, gold sponsor at $1,500, and diamond sponsor at $3,000. We'll get your logo. We'll get you set up with all the assets you'll get. The preschoolers are actually hand drawing and hand coloring all of the logos of our sponsors. And then, surprise, we're going to be mailing them out to you guys, to the sponsors after the event. So thank you guys so much. If you want to sponsor and help out, any dollar, every dollar matters and every dollar counts. You can shoot me a text, 218-234-7345. That's my personal cell. Would love to hear from you, even if you just want to listen to the episode and let me know what you think. As you hear our sponsors throughout the episode, as always, feel free to reach out to them. The more you support them, that always supports us. You'll hear Charlie Huff, you'll hear Eljen, you'll hear Sledgehammer, and you'll also hear from Phaser Marketing, which is our own plug. So thank you to you guys for listening. We're going to dive right into one of my favorite episodes of all time. This is episode number 105. Let's dive right into it. We got Josh Montanye. And with all of that, without further ado, I can't wait to introduce you guys to episode 105 with the man, Josh Montanye, building $100 million culture. Let's get right into it. Cue music, Brandon. Let's have a great day. All right, what's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Egerbrotten. As you just heard in that overview, this is an unbelievable episode. I am so excited to bring you this episode. We have our guy himself in studio. It's been long awaited. Everyone's been wanting this. We definitely took a different angle. As you guys know, I love to try and get different perspectives on the show, whether it's owner operator, somebody who wants to get started, all the way to the other end of the spectrum. And what I love about this episode is we're going to see a little bit of everything, but ultimately what a company can become and what it can turn into. And so we're talking 8-figure, 9-figure companies. Like how do we break through that next ceiling and go from there? There's going to be a whole lot more. And with that, without further ado, can't wait to welcome in my guy, Josh Montanye. How we doing, man?
Great. Thanks for having me.
It is Josh Montanye. Go give him a follow on Instagram at JMONTANYE. But it's an E, but you got to say the yeah. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. I love it, Josh. Welcome to the podcast. You and I have been great friends for a while now. You actually visited, I'm trying to think when that was. You came down to Arizona, you got coffee.
Yeah. Christmas last year.
Wow. Yeah. So you came down, and then we also just had a couple other calls besides that. But man, I've always been so appreciative of the way your mind works. And as I was thinking how we want to kick this episode off, how we want to get started, you had a little bit more of an unorthodox trip into the industry. So maybe let's start there as we start to unpack, how you ended up at Williams Companies and how your love for construction, but really business, has evolved from there.
Yeah, I know it's funny when I look back because, I went to college out on the East Coast. And even back then, I really liked, I wasn't sure what I liked. I was debating psychology or, poli-sci or like what I wanted to do. I took one business class and fell in love. So that was where I ended up going to school. But even during that, I was asked, like, what are you going to do with that? And where do you want to end up? And my answer was always like, I really don't know if I care. I don't have an industry. I never want a ceiling. That's where I'm driven. And I never want to feel like I'm climbing a ladder and I have to check off a certain amount of years. I love that.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah. I love that. With effort and working hard and thinking outside the box, there's never a ceiling. I had no idea that would be construction is like the perfect fit for that description. So yeah, after school, I moved back to Montana. My dad was an outfitter. And so I wanted to hunt and do some of that with him while I could. And it was an interesting series of events. I came home, did that with him my first fall, and I was trying to figure out what job would allow me to be gone 3 months a year, because that's the hunting season in Montana.
Yeah.
Searching around, I randomly found like a night shift counselor random job at a children's treatment center.
Okay.
And so I took that job, and they allowed me to be gone for hunting season. But I ended up working there for 3 years, and it really changed my life in a lot of perspectives psychologically. It's amazing how much. So these kids experience some of the most difficult trauma you've ever heard of, some of the stuff you see in the news, and they go to this treatment center. And I ended up not taking the night shift job. They gave me a day shift job. So I was a practice dad before they got adopted or back to a foster home or something like that. But the emotional, therapeutic side of understanding myself, understanding how people work, was pretty crazy. Not my career path, nothing I intended. But I did that for a few years. Some laws changed in Montana that made becoming an outfitter more difficult.
Yeah.
So I kind of saw this is not my future. I like working with my dad, but this may not be something I want to count on for the long haul. So my wife and I got married in August of 2010, and at our wedding, and my aunt said, "Hey, your wedding gift is to come down to a Cowboys game." And so,
all right,
sweet, all right, and so I didn't know it at the time, but through some of that, I ended up talking to a construction company. She was the controller, and our family was with multiple family members on her side were in that company, and so by the end of that trip, they said, "Hey, if you ever want a job, just call us." And
genius. Like they knew what they were doing.
And it was great people.
Yeah.
I came home, and within a month, my wife and I were just like, why not? We were so zero obligations. And so 2 months later, we were in Dallas, Texas, working for a contractor.
Wow.
They were a general contractor, mostly doing public work, like big Dallas and Fort Worth school district, City of Dallas type of municipal GC. And at the time, you kind of had post downturn. There wasn't a ton of money around.
But what year was that?
2011, spring of 11 is when I moved.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that makes sense. Shortly, after the recession.
Yeah. So, but like through my whole career, not being, which is probably the opposite of some of your listeners, but I always say not coming from the field has kind of been a little bit of my advantage. Because I came in looking strictly at the business, and we did our proposals, and I studied how they were scored. I got debriefs on every job because it's all public dollars. And pretty soon with Dallas and Fort Worth ISD, but mostly Dallas, we were doing like over 60% of their work. There wasn't a ton of work, but we were doing a lot. And within a 2-year period, they both passed like $500 million bonds. So we could go from 60 to 70% to 10%, and we'd actually still grow. I say that experience because I went from the intern, and I was really, really blessed. The owner of the company was great to me. And every meeting, because I was kind of the gadget person of, we had our HR and payroll gal leave, so I just did her job. And then we had an estimator leave, I just did their job. But all that time, our owner just had me sit in the corner of every meeting he had. Clients, insurance, bonding. I was able just to sit over there with zero obligation, but to just learn. And huge blessing, because through that, and then through these bonds that came available, when we had the reputation to really own these key clients, a big portion of their work, where even though it was public dollars, you could tell the program managers were like kind of hoping we would win because we had a good reputation. Well, when those passed, we went from about 10 million. When I left there after 5 years, I think we maybe hit 35 to 40 the year in 5 years. So we quadrupled in revenue. And I know even after I left, that continued. They were up in the $70-80 million range within a few years. And obviously not all me. It takes a team to do all that. The benefit to me was the growing pains. Yeah. And that's when I interviewed at Williams, that was one of the things I, sold myself on in the interview was I've experienced the growing pains of what it's like to adjust from 15 million to 25 in a year, and deal with the processes behind the scenes, communication, hiring. So I was able to build all those as strengths because we kind of had to. And like I said, it's the team there, but especially the ownership. I'm just endlessly appreciative that they put me in the position to absorb that, because it's still paying off 10 years later. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing we talk about a lot on the show too. And no matter where you're at in business, there is a ceiling that you're likely trying to break through. Yeah. And for one, I guess it depends on where you want to go with the business and what your why is. But for most of us, we want to grow for a certain reason. And growing doesn't just mean your top line. There's growth in your team and your bottom line and in your value and everything. So it's really cool, Josh, to have you on here, because a lot of times I talk about the $500K ceiling and then the $1.2 million ceiling. Then, usually there's especially the 3 million to 5 million, because you start having to hire non-revenue generating positions. Yep. So as we kind of go through, if you have any, I'd be super curious to hear what are some of the bigger ceilings that you've seen, and what do you think causes that? Is it leadership? Is it scalability when it comes to capital or cash flow, or what do you typically see these ceilings? How do they appear?
Yeah, you always have to watch tools, equipment, in cash. What do you assess to what's needed? I really think if you're a hustler, those are all achievable. I really look at, there's two main inputs in any business. It's your people, your employees and your clients. And so I feel like the barriers, there are leaps where leaders try to do everything, especially small business owners.
Yeah.
I mean, rarely do great leaders get accused of doing too little.
All right, you dirtbags. I want to do a quick interruption here to talk about this episode's sponsor, Eljen. You guys have heard me talk about them before as well. They are massive supporters of everyone listening and of the Dirtbags podcast and where we're trying to take this thing. For over 4 decades, Eljen has been leading the charge in innovative, reliable, and engineer-friendly septic solutions. Their signature GSF system is NSF 40 certified, ASTM tested, and designed to thrive even in the most unpredictable soil conditions. And with its multi-stage filtration process, smaller footprint, and lower maintenance, it's become the trusted go-to for contractors who want performance they can count on. But what really makes Eljen stand out is their heart. They've made it a priority to hire and support U.S. veterans, helping them transition from military to civilian life, especially at their own company. You guys heard the episode number 94, I believe it was, the 4th of July special with Drew Nicolai. And just diving deep into what makes Eljen so special. So thank you to Eljen for your continuous support of the podcast. Thank you, Eljen, for your support of our U.S. veterans and helping them transition into civilian life. You guys are the absolute best. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys, but also hopefully our listeners too. You guys reach out to them, let them know how much you appreciate them as well. So thank you, Eljen, for what you do for the septic industry and also what you're doing for this country. Now, let's get back into episode 105 with the man, Josh Montanye.
They're trying to do too much.
Yeah, and that's great.
They need to have that 3 to 5 main priority things. And then, I mean, I'm going through this right now, even in some of the changes in my career of, I had a conversation today where if we take any division around Williams that may be struggling, I know I have this thing in my brain that's hard to get through sometimes, that if I could just go take it over, we can turn it around,
Yeah.
But that's really, I need to be having my half dozen leaders that I work with, and I'm just coaching them and keeping them accountable and giving them expectations. And like, that's how we're actually going to grow. And that's kind of where the growth we're at on the growing from that. I really felt like there was a leap once you got past the $15 million mark. Both companies that I've been with my previous employer, and then when I was running the earthwork side of Williams, we hovered right around between 15 and 17 million for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then shot from 22, 27 into the 30s, where it was, you were actually seeing that 10 to 15% launch. So, but backing up, if you want to grow, you've got to figure out what is required on the people side, what level of talent, culture when culture becomes something that can happen outside of your control, because a lot of smaller companies, the owner is the kind of the culture. Maybe there's 2 people that kind of, you talk to everybody in your company, there's a company picnic, everybody's name, you can still control a lot of that or have like a read on it. But once you're getting large enough to where you go out to a job site and like, shoot, what's that guy's name? You're not the sole culture anymore. And so you have to be able to make sure that you're hiring the right people to do that. And then, for our size, it's a huge challenge, but how are we feeding in to make sure that we're going to have enough licensed plumbers and equipment operators in 5 and 10 years, especially with the retirement exodus that's going to happen. The flip side of that is the client side.
Yeah.
From my experiences, I really like to go through and just do an assessment of who do I want to be? Like what size, what lifestyle. You can be a business owner and be burnt out and work yourself to death. You've had several guests on who have given their experiences with that. So I really think you need to decide intentionally, who are we? But then within that, you can start rolling with market share, what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my biggest successes is I try to find that 2 to 4 clients that are going to make up 2/3 of my work. I know that's not possible for everybody.
Yeah.
But I want to assess the market share and see what's possible for me based on my competitors, what's out there in the economy, and where do I wedge myself in to have that consistent. That's the point of it. I mean, even when I was doing public work, that's not necessarily repeat business that you can count on, but you can look at your hit rates, understand what's a fair assessment that you can rely on to get your share. Because then that last third is where you go into new clients, people who don't, trust you yet. You're not their guy yet.
Right.
But that's stable growth. You need to build that base before you're taking risks and, trying to, in that way, within that 2/3, if you have a client that is needy or surprised they have a big project coming, you can always take care of them when things don't go to plan.
Yeah. And I think when you talk about the building that good base or building that good foundation, you alluded to it earlier. A lot of that is your people, and it's the two sides of your team members and your clients. And really they do become one ideally, where your clients, you hire and fire them the same way you hire and fire your team members. And that's in a perfect world, that's how it should be. I'm curious too, you touched on culture and, as you're building a culture that turns heads, I heard you talk about this once before, and I thought it was very interesting, but you mentioned, you want the culture where somebody says, I've never seen a construction company do that before.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because I feel like that is the opposite of how most of us think, where we want to just stay status quo and do how it's always been done.
Yeah.
But if you want to touch on that, is that part of how you break to that next ceiling?
Yeah. Well, and so when we're talking about the customer side, one of my favorite sayings is don't think about not how you're the best. You're not going to go sell that you're the best at something. Sell how you're the only. Mm-hmm. And how can you separate yourselves as we're the only ones in this market that do this? And so that's really critical. And so, I love the compliment of, man, I've never heard of a construction company doing that before. And it goes back to my saying of I kind of feel like my secret weapon is when I walk on a job site, especially civil, I've been doing it for a decade. So I understand talking the talk and what's in a job.
Yeah.
But a lot of times my first filters when I'm walking on a job site is employees, are they happy? What's their attitude? What are their clients happy? Is it safe? Is it clean? Some of those things. But I really think a lot of our success and the things that we're doing is studying other industries and seeing what's coming, especially tech is a big one. I probably take in more tech podcasts and education than I do construction because I'm trying to see what's logical and what's going to happen, even if it's not here yet. And so thinking ahead that way. It goes back. So I think you talked about this. 10X is easier than 2X, right?
Yeah. Joe, you ran with Nordic companies in his episode. I think that was actually the title, but it's spot on too, right? We can try and double, and that's usually a lot harder than just trying to 10X it.
Yeah. So I try to, of that whole book, that's like that one principle, which is the title, but of just take what you're thinking and 10X it and then figure that out. We apply that over and over within things. And it kind of creates the mentality of why not? You know, Williams Academy is one of them of, okay, why not? And if you go to your outcome and start with your outcome of okay, if this took, I'm talking really broad brushstroke, if this took X amount of year investment, but it churned out 15 apprentices a year, what's that worth? Yeah. And then knowing that what we have in the workforce, that 40% is going to retire in the next decade. So you can look at that that's your linchpin of who's going to be successful in a decade is he who has the skilled workforce.
Man, I love that. Go to your outcome and then walk it back and create a plan to do that, because chances are you're not going to be able to start Williams Academy 5 years from now. I mean, you want to be way ahead of that already.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So, and I love how you talked about this. It actually reminded me, I feel like I'm very similar, where I listen to more business podcasts and money podcasts and just higher overview topics instead of marketing agency podcasts or even construction to a degree. Like I love the ones where they unpack the businesses in construction, or they unpack their cash flow. And why I think that's super important for you or for me or somebody in a leadership role to do that is there's so many more ideas out there. And then we need to be the filter of learning those ideas and then filter out what we can and can't use for Williams or for Phaser or for Phaser's clients. And so I think it's very important to stay on top of technology, AI, software, hardware, like everything, and business structure, operating systems, and then filter it down into, okay, that wouldn't apply for our company, but it would apply when we hit maybe a certain ceiling that we keep referencing back to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you're always thinking those few steps ahead, like we're on our plumbing side, we're looking at estimating software right now. We're reviewing some. And so we just had this conversation of, well, at some point between the architect and engineer and our estimate, the AI is just going to be able to scan all of it. And I mean, this is logical. It makes no sense right now that an architect is building something on a computer and we have to read it by hand, or by mouse click, but that it just can't be done. So there's some like Bluebeam and they can do some counts, but it's not fully available. But that's going to be obvious. And then within our production tracking and software, those things will be able to talk. Our estimates at some point, if there's plans and specs, will be fairly automatic. So even though that's not here now, we need to be filtering that when we're selecting a software, because intuitively that's going to happen. Anything that doesn't require human judgment will be automated.
Yeah, 100% well said there. And I think what's important too is that humans will still be involved, but in a much different way than we know it now. And I believe they call it like the knowledge jobs, or where if it needs that human touch, everything will be changing, and it already has already, but it's catching up to it now. So when you take a look at especially AI and software and making sure they integrate in with each other, especially when you look at estimating. And I was talking to somebody about this today, and it's much different now, even in the last few months. But in the construction industry, there's kind of that big adage of, AI can't dig the hole. It's like, yes, but AI can help in, like, let's look at the business side of construction. And I think that's what you do such a great job of, is how it can help the business and the flow and the estimating and the plans and like putting everything together. And if we're not going to adopt it, like everyone else will, and we can stay doing what we're doing. But if it's truly just helping you become more efficient and productive, how could you say no? How could you say no to that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what keeps people and will continue to attract people into the trades is, I do think there's kind of a revival of interest in the craft.
Yes, 100%.
And I created something with my effort. That doesn't mean we can't remove some of the mundane, repetitive tasks with software, with AI, that, aren't the joys of I created this.
Yeah.
So I think it's a blend. Construction is the best place to be in my book, as far as no ceiling and you're creating things, and their jobs aren't going to be replaced easily. But we spend a lot of time, and all companies do, on paperwork and the administration side. I think I really do think, every company out there has seen the same wage inflation since COVID.
Yeah.
We really, maybe based on size, you can save a few percent on material buyout here and there. Equipment rates, we really don't control those. And so really to be competitive in the future, it's going to be efficiency.
Yeah.
By that, we're going to have to use AI to scan what our productions are and dial in by the day, by the crew, how we're doing. Because with that data, your projections are done, your billing is done, but better yet, your scheduling.
All right, you dirtbags, I want to make sure I give a massive shout out to our Dirtbags podcast sponsor, Sludgehammer. You guys and your entire team, especially Will and Dr. Wickham and everyone we've got to meet there, has been absolutely incredible and supports the mission of what we're doing at the Dirtbags podcast. Thank you guys. At Sludgehammer, they're not just treating wastewater, they're transforming it. By introducing cutting-edge microbiology into conventional septic systems, Sludgehammer is making waves in the world of environmental engineering. Their secret? It's not high-tech hardware. It's smart biology, developed by Dr. Wickham. The Sludgehammer blend, which is trademarked, is a powerful proprietary mix of naturally occurring bacteria that supercharges your existing septic system, turning it into one of the most effective and eco-friendly wastewater treatment systems on the planet. It's clean, it's efficient, and best of all, it's sustainable. No chemicals, no overhauls, just a smarter way to protect our water and preserve our planet. Also with Sludgehammer, feel free to reach out to them. You can get involved in their installer network partnership program. It can become a great way for you to offer another solution to your septic clients if you're a septic company, and also make another revenue stream within your business. So feel free to reach out to the team. Let them know the Dirtbags podcast sent you. You can either follow them on Instagram at Sludgehammer Group Ltd, or check out their fancy new beautiful website, sludgehammer.net. That is SLUDGE hammer.net. Thank you guys for all your support of the Dirtbags podcast. Now, let's get back to the show.
And that's one of the things we preach here is we want to do that because we want to be on the cutting edge. We also should be prepared for it anyway, because pretty soon, if you're a commercial contractor, your generals are going to be doing this. You're not going to be sending in a pay app. They're going to go, hey, you're 51% complete. Here's your check.
Yeah.
And so might as well be prepared for that.
Yeah. And I guess in your, when you went to Williams 10 years ago, or almost 10 years ago, how much has it changed for you and your role in the company? Because have they always been receptive to tech and to change? Or can you walk me through that? And then in your last 10 years, how has it ramped up or changed over the years?
Yeah, because I mean, a lot has changed just in what's available in the last 10 years. But yeah, I would say the first 3 or 4 were slower than the last few. So I joined Williams. They were hiring a general manager of Williams Civil, which is the earthwork and utilities company within the family. And so I came in as the general manager of that. Early on, it was just establishing the company. So the downturn in Bozeman crashed pretty hard. And Williams elected, as did a lot of contractors, to go to North Dakota.
Yep.
And
to
so,
the Bakken.
Yeah. And so I wasn't here for that, but the crews were out there until 2014. And then they came back, and I started in February of 16. And my first assessment, I remember in the first few months talking to Ken Williams, was, we don't know who we are. What kind of, what's our market? Like, who are we? We were doing some federal work, some private excavations, some city utilities. We really didn't have this is what our bread and butter is. And that was partially just, we'd only been back in the market and we were just trying to win anything we could.
Right.
And there was a bunch of changeover from staff, just from that adjustment back to Montana and trying to ramp up. And then, so my first few years was just trying to stabilize things and create the culture and create the structure and process internally. In 2018, Ken started to hand the baton to Quinn, his son, as the CEO. And Quinn's always been very tech savvy, very innovative thinking. He's naturally that outside the box visionary person. He's a perfect fit for the CEO role.
Got a great voice.
And And he's just outside the box thinker. And so, and not your typical CEO in the skills he can be, in the personality, takes it to another level. But yeah, so that's really, he's very tech forward. And so if anything, he's maybe game for it, easily, which is great. I mean, we just did that in the last year. We started talking to someone about Microsoft BI dashboards and how it can gather information from all of our softwares and create custom dashboards. And so we quoted a consultant to come build one. And I don't remember what the cost. It was, I don't know, fairly expensive.
Yeah.
So we just had one of our industrial engineers get certified. And so now like every division's like, I want one, and getting that done. But that's, I would say one of the benefits is he's willing to be on the bleeding edge. Like he wants to be on the cutting edge at the risk of maybe there will be a little bit of bleeding edge there that maybe we're 2 years out from this paying off. But when you also have a 38-year-old CEO, his runway is decades.
Yeah. On the bleeding edge. I've actually never heard of that. Where'd you get that from?
I don't know where I got. I feel like I took that from someone who said it to me.
Yeah.
You're adopting things even at the cost of it's not going to pay off for a while.
Wow. No, I think it takes guts. It takes, so much to be on the bleeding edge, because just as it sounds, it's tough, but then you look like a genius 3 years down the road, but you're like, yeah, where were you supporting me 3 years during it? And so, it's interesting too, because a lot of the people we work with at Phaser, especially, are typically younger, and it's not that we don't have any clients that are a bit older, but the majority are under the age of 35, and they're just, they're looking to do things a bit differently, I will say. And they're looking to adopt tech. They're looking to adopt the digital strategy. They're looking to build something that hopefully can withstand generations. And with how fast things are moving, like even since the internet came out, in the late 90s, early 2000s, like even that was a long time until we saw change. And now with how quickly AI is changing things in month spans, it tends to speed things up, and you do have to be on that leading edge, or the bleeding edge of, hey, if we don't try this, or if we're not adaptive or innovative, others will be. And we don't want to get left behind, because we want to build this thing so that it's a machine and it's a company, not just, kind of running and chasing jobs like maybe you guys felt when you first started.
Yeah. And I think you're always assessing. That's one of the things. We're totally fine being wrong. But when we do take a risk of being early, we do think through, okay, if I'm totally wrong, what's our downside?
Yeah. I'm sure it all goes into risk assessment as well.
Yeah. If I look like an idiot and we spent $200,000, am I okay with that? Because I tried and there was upside, and generally we are. But it's always this risk assessment of what your tolerance is and what do we think the payoff is.
Yeah. Does this risk put us out of business if something goes wrong? And most of the time, almost all the time, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but usually that's not worth it. If this one move is going to potentially put you out of business, and that, I don't remember where I read that, but it just take risks, but take calculated risks. And no one decision should potentially put you out of business, but that's also a guy that doesn't own millions of dollars worth of equipment. So I do understand that there is a big difference in industries.
There is. I heard a speaker once, and if I dug it up, I could find his name, but he was a professor that did a bunch of surveys on why construction companies fail. And so it's full of stats. And the one that has always stuck with me is, if a company is over 15% of their backlog is something out of their wheelhouse, that's like a high consistent factor. So you're really looking at, if you're trying something totally new, dip your toe in and just watch how much you're trying something that could put you over your skis. That could, send you that way. But I mean, really, it's all, I feel like contractors in general have a high risk tolerance. We say all the time, our actual biggest risk is one of our gravel trucks taking out a Subaru full of skiers. I mean, that's financially, just strictly financially,
Sure.
not being cold-hearted that people would lose their life, but like just strictly on risk of financial loss or total loss. That's the precedences of contractors. If you understand what the lawsuits will cost you for a life, or we do a lot in, very, billionaire, millionaire, billionaires areas of work. So yeah, if that haul truck took out a celebrity, then you're going to be sued for their remaining life earnings. Yeah, that's, so we're humbled by that. Like that's a reality every day. And we have 160, pickups and vans on the road. I mean, that's every single day. That's our biggest risk.
Yeah. And you can't control every single one of them. Right. Yeah. So, I guess you could say, and this goes into building the culture, building the team, but holding the standard of how we operate, what we do, what is accepted, what's not accepted. And yeah, you kind of have to set that company wide and then trust that your team members can hold that standard. I was having a great talk with Doug Castles from BlackRock Excavating today. And we talked a lot about that. Like as the owner, you can't always be the one that's holding the standard. You can set the standard, but your team and everyone else has to hold the standard. And I think the same thing goes with culture. That shouldn't just come from the owner. It should come from everybody. Like that is culture.
Yeah. That's one of the hardest things that is good to get into, but like reading our core values and, our sub points under each one of what that means to us.
Yeah.
Like every major meeting, I kind of, I feel ridiculous sometimes reading it, 4 times a week in front of people. Sit there and listen. Yeah. But, every once in a while I change it up and I tell them like, hey, give a shout out to someone on your team without them on the screen. That tell me what core value they represent and why. And so trying to get that memory of, so they can catch people doing things right and say like, hey, you did great, or a correction, but here's our core value that says how you should behave. But trying to create that habit of cascading messages and what our culture is and why it's important. And, and within those, you're free to fail is like one of them. I mean, so we want the culture of take a risk, speak up regardless of tenure or title.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but what are your core values? Since you said you say them every single day, if you need a second to look them up, I'll stall.
But our core values is teamwork, committed to success, and individual responsibility. We have, that I'm not going to quote to you, is we have 4 bullets under each one. That's more practical. Like
that'd be tough.
Yeah, but something like catch people doing things right. That what I said before, speak up regardless of tenure or title.
Yeah.
Those are all bullet points under those that, we want to be committed to win. So our teammates can rely on us.
Yeah. One of my favorite core values. So my wife, Olivia, she works at Carvana, and that's actually what moved us down to Arizona, and they're a huge company. I mean, it's 20 some thousand employees and they're headquartered here. And one of my favorite core values that they have is don't be a Richard, which is a dick. And so I love them. Like, man, that is, I wish I thought of that, but yeah. And I think too, and you alluded to this with your team, with you guys, like, and having a little edge, having a little fun, doing things differently. I think this is the perfect time to talk about,
where you're going.
And once you talk about it a little bit, I'm going to have Brandon put in the video, but the I'm on a hoe video was one of the greatest cinematic experiences I've ever seen. And I think this is before you and I had even really known each other, maybe.
Yeah.
When was that video?
So, I'm on a hoe was about a year ago. We've been talking for a while, but yeah.
Okay, so it was. So
at least last Christmas.
So I'm going to put up the video here. I'm going to have Brandon insert the video, and then we're going to hear your feedback. So,
okay.
All right, Josh, the I'm on a hoe video. How did that all come about? Is that Quinn's beautiful voice? Is that yours? Is it both? I mean, Walk me
Yeah.
through how we got there.
So during COVID, we used to just have a big Christmas party where all employees and their families were invited, and we would give out an award. And on the plumbing HVAC side, it was Mr. Fabulous, and on the civil side, it was the Big Ho. And there's a trophy with names on it.
Yeah.
So that was the history. In 2020, Quinn was like, "Well, we can't have a Christmas party. I'm going to do like a video of the award videos," and they were such a hit that it became a tradition. So Quinn is just an awesome personality, no shame. If you go back into the archives, there's some pretty risque, wild ones out there
on YouTube.
But then, last year, so the Lonely Island, I'm on a boat song. It came in my feed or came somewhere. I don't remember. I heard it and it was just like, oh, so I texted Quinn, and it took a couple months of convincing that wouldn't be inappropriate or make all the spouses at our dinner blush or whatever. But yeah, we finally, when we said yes, we just asked AI to change the lyrics, and then we kind of manually edited a few things.
Yeah.
I was asked to, so Quinn is the outgoing guy. He's the social, no shame guy. And I'm more introverted in the integrator in the background.
Sure.
But he's changing that in me. So he just said, "Hey, do you want to participate?" And I was like, "Sure." So I showed up with zero expectations to a location that was the recording studio. So some of the clips on the YouTube, they had gold chains for us to wear, and we had to sit there and a majority of what you hear on the track is Quinn, because the really out of tune ones were me.
You can pick them out.
But then, same thing. So we nominate, I think next week nominations go out for this Christmas. And the companies will nominate a handful of employees, and then the nominees get voted on, the top 3 or 4 will get voted on. And then with these videos, the winner doesn't know what we're filming. So if you I'm on a hoe, Shafter was our winner, and he's the coolest guy in the world.
Yeah.
It's like this meek Southern gentleman he's awesome. But we told him to meet us in our gravel pit, and he had no idea what was happening. So we dressed him and just, played the track that we'd recorded and just said, "Do your best dance moves. You don't have to do anything else."
Crushed it.
Yeah, we gave him a top hat, and then all that was just on the spot footage.
I worked all day. I'm on a hoe. Everybody look at me 'cause I'm digging on a hoe. I'm on a hoe.
But really, the full circle on that is one of the things we say is we take what we do seriously without taking ourselves too seriously. And that's the message that I love about it, and why anytime I'm asked, "Hey, do you want to do something, this or that, go dance on a parody video?" I'm like, "Sure, just tell me what to do," because I don't want to be, we have a big outfit, and the C-suite's all up on the 3rd floor, and there can be stigma to that. And there are employees now that I don't know their names, it's pretty hard to track. And so at the Christmas party, when I'm down on a job site, I want people to understand that we're just a goofy guy. There's not more to it. And I got that compliment in a different fashion once, and it meant the world to me. I was out hunting in eastern Montana, and 2 of my foremen were out having dinner. I knew we were in the same area, so I had texted them. I came in and had dinner with them from where I was hunting, and they said, "Hey, where are you staying?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just sleeping in the back of my truck." And they said, "That's what we like, is you're one of us."
Yeah.
And so the videos are the same thing to me, is just have a good laugh at our expense. It's a highlight of our Christmas party. And it's getting tough to top. But it was a lot of fun. I was honored to be a part of it.
So this Christmas party, obviously you can't say anything about what it is. Do you guys have any ideas, or is it all fleshed out, or does that take some time to put together?
So like as far as for this year,
Yeah.
we don't even know yet. So
Okay, that's what I figured.
it kind of depends on the winner, because you have to filter through their personality
For sure.
a little bit. But no, we've Steve, our marketing guy, and Quinn, and we'll trade around some reels of like, hey, this song would be funny. Or it's not always songs either, but the plumbing, Mr. Fabulous last year was a spoof on the show Yellowstone.
Yep.
Our general superintendent branded the Mr. Fabulous with the Williams logo. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that style too, because I feel like I do a lot of that at Phaser as well, of just ideating and letting my mind go and creating, but also letting our team do that too, especially our leadership team. On a different vein, we do a big Halloween contest every year, and we're completely remote. And so it's like, but we take it seriously, right?
Yeah.
But we don't take ourselves seriously. I like how you mentioned that. And same thing with this, like we do a Halloween contest. We all dress up, wear our costumes for the whole day. But then what we did last year and what we're going to keep going is we, I take a screenshot of everybody on our Zoom call, and then we vote. I have the public vote. So I put it on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and 1 through 21, like all of our team members. And whoever wins, like last year we gave them $100 and we make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
And then this year we're going to do a trophy, potentially WWE style belt and a podium. So now that we have more team members, it's first, second, third with cash prizes and just things like that. Like you mentioned with your Christmas party, I really like how you guys still, you do that as a 10-person company, but roughly how many team members are you guys running right now?
380. Yeah.
So, and I think that's the point here too, is that you don't have to be small to do things like this or to have fun. And you mentioned it earlier in the episode as well, of not necessarily like climbing that corporate ladder, or you have to be a certain age to get to a certain C-suite level or tenure and kind of all these things that can make it feel stuffy, but really just trying to build the culture. I guess off of that too, I'd be curious, what are your thoughts between, a lot of times people talk about building, their family at work, but also having that boundary of, we're team members. So curious to your thoughts on that of, how do you build a close and tight knit team while also respecting the boundaries of, we're also just coworkers.
Yeah. It's a tough balance, especially because Williams historically used that language a lot of we're a family company.
Yeah.
And I think that's still true. And the way that we live that out is when we have an employee lose a loved one. My message is always go, or it's, someone's sick or whatever. If there's a personal event, go. You will always regret missing this.
Yeah.
And so we can have their back there and care deeply, coming back to radical candor. Like you can't have candor if you don't start with the care deeply side. Mm-hmm. Care deeply. We like, one of my favorite things is seeing the progression of careers. I have a project manager that started with us. He was the first intern I ever hired at Williams. And he was awesome. And his last day I said, you always have a job. He was going to school in Colorado, and next spring I called him I don't know, one of us called each other. He might've called me, but about coming back, and absolutely, you have a job. And, but not only is he a project manager for us now, but he's gotten married, he's had kids, like he's bought a house, and like those things, watching that life progression. And like, that is where where you care deeply and love seeing their success. Where I see it in the bad context, you could say that I think it's misconstrued is like, if you have to let somebody go because they're not pulling their weight, or it's finding that balance. We say, we are a family company because we care about our people. Sometimes caring for our people is making the tough decision, because we can be a family company and a high performance team at the same time. And so that's a tough balance, but I feel like, the other saying within that is, train your people so that they're so skilled they can leave, but treat them so well they don't want to. And is that what's his name? The Virgin Atlantic guy. But
our guy, Sir Richard Branson.
Yeah, there's a B. Yeah, I think that's his saying. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's got to be. He's got a few of them.
But that part of treat them so well that they don't want to, I think that's where it bleeds into family, like the family side. But one of my spiels that I give often is everyone loves their job for different reasons. Like, if I can look across at different employees, some people might like the autonomy. Some people it's like, they pay well, that's it, or the benefits or whatever. And some people it's like, man, I love showing up to work with the people, next to me. Or I respect my boss so much that like they have more loyalty, whatever. There's a million different things that all of us, and it's probably a blend of multiple things for most people. So our approach is, how do we try to cast the broadest net possible within reason to satisfy those things and have people love showing up? And the example I give in that spiel is, I want our employees, when they go home for Thanksgiving and their aunt says, how's your job? I want them to get the chills because they're so excited to tell. Like, you won't believe. It's back to that. I've never heard of a construction company doing that. Like, you won't believe what happened. Or you won't believe about this big hoe video like these ridiculous bosses made. Like that's what I want for everyone. And so that's really how we try to think outside the box of, having a high standard does still fit within that. And I've had, close employees have tragic loss and, cried with them. But at the same time, I have to care about the 380 people and make sure we have A players in every seat. And so it's a tough balance, but that's a really long-winded answer to being a family company still means high performance.
Well, and long-winded because it's not black and white. And that's why I asked the question, because it's, we're a much smaller company. We've got 20 team members, and it sometimes feels like we're family.
Yeah.
And I would, to your point, I would say we are, but that doesn't bleed into the business. So I always like to say as well, Phaser, the business, has to succeed first. Like, we can't treat ourselves as individuals, even myself. And we have to do what's right for the business, not each individual, which a lot of times doing what's right for the individual helps the business. And so I think looking at it like that in a treat people right mindset can really help, especially your culture, help you scale up a team, because I would say it's easy enough when you have 3 or 4 people and you can just talk to them every day and you're on every job and you're working with them. But as you scale up to 100, 200, 380 people, you don't even know everybody. But what you still want is that standard and that high performance, because a lot of times what I've seen is that's what people are also looking for, is they're looking for high performers to work with. And like I always say, winners want to work with winners. And if they feel like they're not being challenged or they're not going anywhere in their career, they're probably going to move on. And I'm sure you've seen this too, Josh, but everyone has a different reason for staying and leaving. And in my experience, money does come up. It absolutely is a factor, but it's usually a lot less of a factor than I think. I always just assume not getting paid enough, or I need to pay this person more. But really what they're looking for, if we were to ask them, is something totally different. So I think just opening our eyes as leaders, and for everyone listening in your company, not everyone's motivator is money. And the only way we can know what their motivation is by having these conversations and talking with them and making sure that we do understand what does push them and why they want to be here. Because if it is money, that's okay too. And you just know as you're budgeting for your company, how that's going to fit in. But as you mentioned, Josh, bringing in A players, like no matter what, if they're a B player, we can train them up one level to be an A player, but we can't be hiring D players and C players and expect them to work at Williams or Phaser or anyone else's company that's listening.
Yeah. I think to your point that it's often not money, but I think intuitively, as bosses, when it is money, and they probably, like in your mind, maybe they aren't at that level yet. It's uncomfortable and it's uneasy, but so I think there's there's a subconscious thing to where we often feel like it will be money. Like that's why we overweight the money one, is because that's the most uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When I think it would change our lives if we just had the conversation.
All right, you dirtbags, let's talk insurance. Yeah, I know it's not the sexiest topic, but stick with me because I know this is important and you want to hear it. If you run an excavation, grading, landscaping, or any kind of dirt moving business, you know the right insurance can make or break you. And that's where our guy, Charlie Huff, comes in. You've heard me talk about him before on the show. Charlie is our guy when it comes to insurance. He's not just some random insurance guy. He's one of us. He grew up in a shop, worked in the trades, and now he's dedicated his career to protecting dirt world companies like yours. His team is full service, fast, and relentless when it comes to getting you the best coverage at the best price. They flip over every rock, negotiate hard with carriers, and make sure you're not just covered, but covered right. And the best part? He makes it super easy. If you need a COI, done. Adding or removing equipment, handled. Got an audit coming up? No sweat. He takes the insurance headaches off your plate so you can get back to running your business and listening to this podcast. So if you want an agent that truly cares and knows the industry, you know to go to our guy, Charlie Huff. Feel free to shoot him a text or give him a call at his cell, 435-764-4833. Once again, that is Charlie Huff, 435-764-4833. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Thank you for all your support. Let's get back to it.
Like if you remove that risk of it being awkward about money, and it's not threatening. Like, I mean, I've had those conversations myself of here's my outlook. Here's what I'm after. Here's what's important to me. Here's what I need from you.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I've had conversations of like, if someone else came along, what would be the deciding factor for you to leave?
Yeah.
And those are healthy, good conversations. I mean, and especially maybe on the more mature side of employees, not maybe your laborers and that, most people know that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not money, but when we see an exodus of people out of one of our divisions, I mean, that's usually something we look through is okay, this guy said he's moving. This guy said, whatever, I got an offer I couldn't refuse. If we were killing it at being their employer, they would have a lot harder time. And that's part of our job.
Right. And it brings up we had Alex Parker from Parker Rock and Dirt on probably a year and a half ago. For anyone listening, go check out that episode because he does talk about building a tiered promotion system. And really the nexus of that is making sure your team members can see the path and know there is a path and can know what the next steps look like. And our jobs as leaders or your managers in your company, their job is to make sure that, hey, what are you looking for even financially? Like, let's just talk about it. And then let's develop a plan to get you there. Because there's I shouldn't say almost always, there's most of the time a way to get them there. If it's like, hey, in 12 months from now, I would love to be at, let's just say $80K a year for whatever that reason is. And then as the manager and as the owner, you can look at that and say like, it's not crazy. We would need to see this out of this person taking on these responsibilities and our business to do this. If we can make that happen and help them get there, we would be more than happy to pay that. So I think just showing them a path, but also helping them through that path. And that's our jobs as leaders, is to lead people to better lives and to better careers. And like you said, Josh, sometimes more importantly is the emotional side of the career. Like, do they like coming to work? How do they speak about it? How do they feel about work? But then making sure that we understand that and know that so that we can help build that path for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the career ladder side we found is super important. So they understand if they ask for $3 more, we can say, well, let's pull this out and look at what you would need to do. And then the other thing on your episode 100, you and Luke were talking about the incentive side.
Yep.
And that's a lot of what he's looking at is stuff that we've been through. And I mean, yeah, any of your listeners that want feedback, I'd be happy to give it because we've exhausted those programs, but especially on our dirt work side, we have one that works really well for the company and for the employee. And so I feel like we're fairly dialed in that regard. But that's a big deal is we're pretty generous for jobs that overachieve. But that's why, I mean, we've been working for the last couple of years to make as much as possible incentive based and then removing ceilings. Because why wouldn't you want people to just kill it and completely overachieve?
Man, I love that. This is a great opportunity for anyone still listening. Reach out to Josh at JMONTANYE on Instagram, LinkedIn as well, probably, Josh.
Yeah.
Yep. So reach out to Josh. As he mentioned, he is willing to give you guys these resources, help you guys out with any questions you have, especially going through this episode and like us unpacking this. I mean, it's just been so cool for me to hear it from you, but hopefully a lot of our listeners, you guys are getting great value from this, and we're definitely not done yet. So keep on listening. Josh, with that too, I'm very curious. Maybe we'll take a stab at it two ways, but when it comes to team building, so I know you have a lot of experience with that, like how to build a team. Maybe we'll start with how you would build a team at your size and what aspects come into there. And then if you want to take a stab at a smaller company, let's say 5 employees, dirt contractor, what maybe they should be looking for when it comes to building a team and hiring, their workforce and their team members.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to like, no matter what your size, as the leader, owner, whatever position you're in, your number one job is hiring, like, period. Because culture is who you hire, and it's our job to hire A players and then be decisive if maybe you didn't make the best hire or someone started great, and be decisive on challenging them directly or moving them to a different seat or out if that's what ends up happening. Because really the people are control your culture and the performance side. There's a lot of things you can teach and tweak if it's just the performance side. But you have to start there. And then second to that, in my opinion, is if you're going to lead a team, you have to have a vision. They have to know where they're going and where we're headed and be on board for that. And so those are the, 2 biggest things. And then as you're growing, whether it's from 5 to 8 to 12 employees, or in some of my cases where it's, trying to rebuild a division or start a new division, is you're just I'm assessing where skills are at. Who do we have that's in there? Like, I am a fan of always looking, especially if you're in some of that rebuild mode for new talent who might fit where. Making the tough calls of putting people in different seats if that's what they need. But it's that balance, because I'm guilty 100% of, if I can just do it, I can control that it'll be done well, which isn't always the right answer. Sometimes in the interim it is. But if really your job on that is casting the vision and then being decisive with your people and setting that standard. So other than that, within building the team, there's so many factors with it in what market you're trying to fill, what skill set you need. But one of the biggest ones that I think we fail at in construction is when you have a need, just moving the most talented guy into it. Whether that, especially if it's like foreman or PM, like in the leadership role, making sure the skills match. I'm trying, there's a really good podcast that came out a few weeks ago that had John Maxwell and Patrick Lencioni on it.
Yeah. Which
row,
podcast?
The Front Row, I think is what it's called. It's
Okay.
Ken Coleman is the host. The title of it's like 100 years of leadership experience.
Wow. Like Ken Coleman, Dave Ramsey, Ken Coleman?
Yes. So
okay.
the three guests was Dave Ramsey, John Maxwell, and Patrick Lencioni.
What a stacked.
Yeah, it was good. But Maxwell has a clip on that where they're talking about promotion, and it's so dead on with like, we're promoting people into leadership positions who've never reproduced themselves. Like, that should be a requirement, that if you're considering someone to be a manager, because you're the business owner and you now need a product manager, you now need a superintendent, and you can't be everywhere at once. Who's someone in your business that's already trained behind them and has those leadership skills? And really, I'm through some experiences in the last few years of rebuilding some teams at Williams. I've developed a little bit of a philosophy of there's 4 different skills that people naturally have. And this comes into play with, I actually had teammates that could never see eye to eye. But my categories that I broke it into, I built my own little nerdy Venn diagram, was technical expertise, structure and process, leadership, and then perceptive and attuned. That's 4 different, I can go into those if you want. 4 different
Yeah, definitely.
But I would have a super technically competent person saying, like, this is what we need to do. And that's what they value because that's their skill. So that's their focus. And they hire people on technical competence, maybe not necessarily culture. And then I had an employee who was extremely dialed in on process. Like, they can, create SOPs and workflows and check every box and fill out the paperwork perfectly. But they didn't come from the field. And so, they were so worried, is everybody doing their time cards correctly? Did everybody fill out all their paperwork and their dailies correctly? But they weren't they didn't understand what it was like to be an excavator operator when it snowed the foot that day. Or they had to go move ground heat around, or like that's, so those disconnects. So really I look for leaders that can understand the balance of those things. Because obviously leadership is self-explanatory a little bit on being a natural leader and reproducing yourself and understanding delegation. But that last piece about being perceptive and attuned, that's reading the room. When you're really trying to dial into what your employees love about their job, what are you actually selling to your clients? But if you're hardcore strong in one of those, you need to have balance on your team for those other areas, and at least value them. If you're working slowly at building the strength, that's great. But like, I didn't come to the field, especially now in the last couple of years when I work at plumbing. I'm not a plumber. Yeah. But as long as I always hold high regard that's a deficiency of mine, and that's fine. So, if there's a technical conversation, I need to have a technical person with me. I mean, if they're speaking and giving me their experience, I need to listen. Yeah. Wow. So, interesting. So in the way you kind of map it out, if you could give me a picture of it, when you have the technical expertise, systems and processes, leadership, and then the perceptive and in tune. So attune. Yeah. Attune. So there we go. So as you have those 4, I guess my first question would be, are you eyeballing it, or like, how do you know somebody is one or the other? And then how do you put that into a graph where you could know where they balance well with others? I'm trying to figure that out. Like, it's my own little concept that I'm trying to be able to deliver, on and communicate to others. What I've done so far is I've brought it up into team meetings. Like, when we do like a strategic offsite for each of our groups, and I had people plot themselves. And so that's so far and that actually is pretty telling, because we would have a team member plot where they think they are, and I mean, it's not really a Venn diagram because there's not really over intersecting areas but I put it like that because technically you could kind of graph yourself like a disc, kind of a little bit of each.
Yep.
But we had people plot themselves, and then the rest of the room agreed or disagreed.
Interesting.
So to just give that feedback, and then part of it is within your team awareness of it's just like doing Myers-Briggs or DISC or anything else, or
Colby assessments, like all those.
So awareness of what each other's skills are and where we need to grow as individuals. But if you're on a team, like say your leadership team is 4 and 3 of you are on technical experts, and the one over in like leadership might be like pulling their hair out, like, okay, you guys can dig the perfect hole, or you can, prepare a foundation, no problem. But like we're struggling, like we're totally disorganized. We're not reproducing ourselves. Our culture stinks. Like you need to figure out who can fill those voids.
Interesting. And I suppose, is it different per division, like based on how many you would want in the technical expertise area? Like, do you ever have divisions where it's heavier in one or the other?
Yeah. The closer you get to the actual work, the more you're going to have the technical expertise. But if you have a division struggling because everyone's in technical expertise, like that's a data point. Oh, okay. Now we're self-aware in the same way that like, in both construction companies I worked in, the ENTJ personality is like half the people in the product manager room. That's like the introverted, logical, show me black and white, judgment and thinkers. Like that's half our product managers. And so it's similar to that. I mean, you're going to have commonalities because that's, on the Myers-Briggs, there's like 3 personalities that seem to always rise to the top in construction. And it's because it's the personalities that at least up until now have excelled in construction for that reason. And it's pretty predictable. If on the 16 personalities assessment, if I have a PM that's kind of like some random personality that no one else in the building is, they usually struggle with some aspect of management of their job because it's so catered to the INTJ.
Man, that is so interesting. There's the one that it spells out widget. Working Genius.
Yeah, Working Genius.
Oh, you've got the book right behind you. Of course you do. I did that one. That one's really cool too. One of our leadership coaches helped us through that because, and I think a lot of them do this, but it shows you, your 2 strengths, your 2 kind of middle yellow and your 2 red. But the 2 red, like for me, the T, tenacity, I believe it is. It's like seeing things through to the end, being the, the nitpicky operator, or not operator, but in operations, like that is just not me. And I believe I came out as like a G, a galvanizer, where I'm trying to add fuel to things. I'm the, I'm not, and where I'm getting with this too, is there's certain that complement each other and there's certain that you need in the same group, but it kind of pinballs, and the WIDGET, they kind of go off of each other when you're making decisions. And it makes sense when you see it in a visual graph, because you're like, oh yeah, that person is a wonder. They're just throwing ideas out like nothing. And then the I, they're the ones poking holes in everything. And they're the ones denying everything. And so it made a lot of sense for me when I saw what I was and what I saw what our team was. And so that's the Working Genius. And Josh, you have the book right there. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah. 6 types of Working Genius.
Yeah. So I would recommend that one. And you mentioned a few other good ones, the DISC assessment, the Colby assessment. What are you going to call this one? The one the growth?
I'm working on it.
This is the next big one, but I understand technical expertise, systems, processes, leadership. If you just want to touch a little bit on that 4th one, the perceptive and Attune, not in
Yeah.
tune.
So
Not like you and the I'm on a Hoa video.
No, no, attuned. That comes from my working at a treatment center days where attunement was connecting with the other person and like understanding where they're at and what they're feeling. But yeah, that's really, I've had some people in leadership that can't read a room, or really, I feel like in the last year, I've learned more about how critical it is for leaders to be able to look in the mirror and assess themselves and have some self-awareness on their strengths and weaknesses. It's so critical, because if you are really bad at that, what that looks like in front of your teams, what it looks like in front of your clients is not great. And then I'm just, like I said, I'm a no ceiling ever guy. So yeah. I want to grow every day. I want to be 1% better every day. And so that, like, I constantly want to look in the mirror and figure out, okay, what's next? What's the next thing I'm going to learn? What's the next way I'm growing all the time? And so, for what attunement is, I already said it this way, but reading the room and being able to read body language and then when someone is saying like, man, I know I'm just a laborer, but I can't even afford to pay rent, like connecting with them and being real and leveling with them. I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. What else can you do? And we've had people in a bind where, we've bought their groceries out of our wallets, just like, hey, get through this week. Here's what I need to see from you. And I've got some overtime, and like being able to connect to people that way. But especially in the dirt side, just because there's so much more black and white brains go into the dirt side. One of my biggest challenges that I end up finding is, what are you selling? Understanding what you're selling. And it kind of goes back to it's not necessarily like the customer's always right, but like, just like all of us have manpower struggles and we're trying to find the next generation and we're trying to bring in, Bozeman's kind of been an exploding market the last decade. And so there's contractors that are fantastic contractors, been here for decades, but they've gone from 100 million to 300 million. And so they have project managers that are 27 and, have no idea what grade they're looking at or what material they're looking at. And so we can get all upset of like but they don't know anything. They don't know what they're talking about. They're correcting my pay app or we can go like, wow, I'm invaluable to them. Like, how can I make them look good to their boss so that they want me on the next one? And like, what are you selling? We're selling that their life is easier because we're on the job. We're selling that the job will get done on time. If they want schedules, they want, project updates, great. We'll give them to you, because if that's what they need. I mean, I had a situation where I had a client that didn't answer emails very often. And I tried to coach it like, okay, I don't care. They're the client. So maybe you need to be in their office every other week. How can we get in front of them? What communication style do they like? And that's how we need to communicate. Because it's their prerogative. I mean, we're providing the customer service
right
on that end.
Man, I love that too. And what are you solving? What problem are you helping them solve? What value are you giving to them? And I think we've all been on the other side of it. And that's why I love the power of reciprocity, of typically thinking how, instead of thinking what I want and what we want as a company, it's what would another company want? And you can use that in any situation. I love how you brought it up there of, how do we make this person's life easier as the PM? How do we make them look like a rock star? And it's just, when you can do that, that's actually how I started my company, is because a marketing agency I was helping be the liaison for, they made me look like an all-star, and I really wasn't doing much. And I was like, man, these people are so cool. We're paying them tons of money, and they make me look great, and our business is crushing. And at the job I was working at, and then started Phaser. And so, but I just love how you brought that up of what are we selling? And a lot of times it's so much deeper, but easier to find than what we might be selling on a brochure or on our website. And how do you hit those pain points so that they know right away, like, I could just go with Williams and they're going to make my life a whole lot easier. or I could start digging up a bunch of, other contractors that I don't know how they work. I don't know what the communication flow is. I don't know if they're going to get the job done on time. Maybe it's just easier if we go back with our bread and butter. And that's what you want to be for them is the bread and butter and just the non-negotiable. Like, yep, we know when we got something, we're going with Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of your listeners who own like a smaller septic company, I mean, going back to the employee conversation, I mean, if you're getting a lot from word of mouth, what can you do to make them want to talk about it? Not just if their neighbor or somebody, at the grocery store says, I got to get my septic replaced, and oh, you should use my guy. That hopefully that's a given. That should just be permission to play. But how can you get them to just go that little extra mile? And, what's a cost-effective way to tip the scale where they're like, you won't believe. It's back to, I've never heard of anybody doing that. What can you do on their doorstep? Leaving something to them that they're going to be like, you won't believe this. I got such and such. These guys did a great job. They cleaned up my yard. They did seed, and I didn't even ask them to. And by the way, they did this one extra thing. It goes back to one size fits one. How can you be the only?
Yeah. Huge shout out to Anderson Septic out in Connecticut there. He's been on a few episodes. Of course, you guys have heard him. But one of the things that I love, there's two things here. So one thing that I love that he does and that we do is the handwritten card and the wax seal. And that is just spending the time. So whenever your client or your customer gets that, they're like, wow, Anderson Septic, they spent time on this just to say thank you. And taking that a step further, one thing you can do to really stand out to your customer list, especially and your clients, because we all care about our clients, especially the ones that we don't want to lose and that we care about, is sending them something in the mail that isn't on a holiday. Every company in history sends a Christmas gift or a Thanksgiving gift or whatever it might be. I challenge you guys listening, find out when your client's anniversary is or their birthday or their company. Let's say you're working with another construction company, when their start date was and their anniversary, like things like that, they may not even know. And like, wow, this company just sent us an anniversary gift for our own company that we forgot when our anniversary was. And when you start showing up, and because a lot of times too, let's say it's a homeowner or it's somebody at the front desk you're trying to get through to the owner. Either way, you're going to stand out a whole lot more on a day that's not Christmas than on Christmas, because when they're getting gifts left and right, they're just throwing it in the break room. Like, yep, got another thing of cookies, got another ham, which we all get. And I'm like, I remember thinking of that when I was working. It's like, man, I wish they'd space this out so I could eat cookies all year instead of all at once and we had to throw out a bunch. But it's just a small, easy tip for you guys listening, just to be a little bit different and send something on find a random holiday. Or my favorite too, of course, is just the personal side of things, the anniversary, the work anniversary, the birthdays, things like that. It means a lot and it really helps you stand out. Yeah.
And the mental trigger to some of that needs to be, if you're in the business and you go tell some random new friend or acquaintance, this is what I do, or I own a septic company. Oftentimes people will tell you a story like, oh, I heard this story once about, and it's usually one that went wrong. Save all those data points of what were the pinch points for them.
Yeah.
If they left a mess through my yard, they cracked my fence or whatever, like hopefully those are just basic things, but that could be the catalyst of your new trick to go the extra mile.
Yeah. And nobody asked for this one, but I'll give you one more. I didn't realize this would be as good as it was, magnets. And so for 6 years, I just get those business card sticky adhesive things. And I would put my business cards on these magnets and I'd flip them over. So you'd basically have two, the one is the backside that just says Phaser Marketing. The other is my contact info. And in everything, I just send two magnets, like one of each. And I just don't think anything of it. But when I've done that now for 6 years, there's like hundreds of homes that have had my magnets on their fridge for years. And I'm like, that is for pennies on the dollar. And just a little thing too, when I think about, okay, if a construction company or a septic company, especially that we're working with, if they're going to send something, have something in there that is a type of magnet, because nobody, and this might not be the popular opinion, nobody's going to keep your business card in their wallet.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if it's a magnet and it's like in the break room and you have things on there, or like a maintenance schedule or tips and tricks or whatever you want it to be, doing that in your gift can be a great hack. And it's something that we use, and we didn't even realize it was working until a few years later. All these homes I had gone into, we'd see our magnets and they'd been up there for years. So it's just a small little thing you guys can do as you're already going to go out to these clients and, of course, your partners and vendors as well.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Josh. So as we are nearing the end here, a couple last things I've got for you. Where do you see the industry going? Let's go the civil construction industry, especially when it comes to tech, the future of it, the people of it. And I do want to tie in Williams Academy as well. So if we want to start maybe on the tech side, and then let's tie in the people side.
Yeah. Like I said, I try to pay attention to tech a lot and talk to my vendors often about what do you see coming. And, trying to use things like, when we're going to Dirt World or going to Con Expo and paying attention on that side of what's coming. But I really think the most helpful thing in general is what makes sense. Because, you've probably gone to where they have excavators digging autonomously. We've talked to Telio and some of the companies doing remote work where it's mostly in quarries at this point. That isn't quite fit for us. I have done calls with them. But to me, it's kind of that approach of what's new, always trying to be ahead of it. But then on top of that, what are the guys that are 10 times our size doing? And then what are the guys that are a third of our size doing?
Interesting.
Because that's, one of the things that you and I talked about earlier. I think maybe the first time I ever reached out to you was a question about social media. And this isn't necessarily tech. But Williams has historically not put huge effort into that. Our following is pretty small. And then we have, some of your clients are significantly smaller than us with, 20 times the following. And so
it's crazy. They're Dirt World influencers. It's amazing. And I got to give a shout out at Will Plum on Instagram, WILLPLUMB. Yeah. Give them a follow right now. Let's bump up that page.
And if you go to mine, Will Plum and the Academy are both in my profile, so you can find them easily. But yeah, I talked to the Dietzes and I've talked to Dane about like, hey, what are you seeing from this? Like, is the juice worth the squeeze on putting more energy into that? And it's the same with technology of you're trying to find that out, and there's going to be innovations that big companies use that a 10-person company came up with or started the trend. So you got to pay attention to that side of like, how does that apply to me? And then the flip side is, what are the titans of the industry doing that can trickle down to like, how does this apply at our level? I really think in the short term, you're going to see AI and technology get rid of a lot of the redundant. It's probably going to affect the office a heck of a lot more than it's going to affect the field outside of like some of the GPS stuff. But I really don't know if we're real close to the autonomous stuff in the type of jobs that we do. Yeah. The greenfield sites and quarries, it's great. I love seeing it. And just kind of, because it helps me try to connect dots on 10 years from now, or maybe even 5 years from now. But I mean, a lot of our market, over half of our work is in Big Sky. So we're up in the ski resorts, digging on the side of a mountain, in the winter. Like it's this, in tight sites with zero laydown. We can't have, the tech is not there yet for full autonomous stuff. So I really think efficiency on the scheduling side, because that's really, well, like I was saying earlier, that, it's not the big fish that eat the little fish, it's the fast fish that eat the slow fish. We have to make all of our gains there. No RFIs, solve problems fast, get engineers on board to like stamp changes as quickly as possible. But how do we get to where we're not killing it on an excavation and then twiddling our thumbs because the waterproofer hasn't come.
Yeah.
So we can backfill.
Yeah.
It's just that over communication. So I do think if we get scheduling and projections and billing off the plate of a lot of the office staff, their job is going to shift towards efficiency.
Love that.
What can we prefab? How can we make sure everything's dialed in a friendly way? How can we communicate to the subs on either side of us that impact our schedule, and just inform, so that hopefully they catch on and realize, wow, this is great. If we don't have downtime, it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, man, I can't just stop on that. Literally the fish quote you just said. You're pulling out all these and they're amazing. I've never heard them, but that we're not the big fish that eats the small fish, or the fast fish that eats the slow fish.
Yeah.
If that wasn't so long, that'd be the title of this episode. But
I'll give credit. That's from a book like 15 years ago. I don't remember where I got it.
Man.
But I think back maybe even in college, that's a book.
Unbelievable. Well, you're chock full of them. So this is great. Let's talk about Williams Academy and what the vision is there. Then I would love to hear some book recommendations, since you've got a stack of them right behind you. And then we'll wrap her up from there.
So Williams on the plumbing side has always had a pretty large apprenticeship program. And then the governor of Montana changed some laws or some regulations a few years ago to increase the amount of apprentices you can have per journeyman. So it grew the program quite a bit. But the system was just challenging to where if we had an apprentice, they got their hours at Williams for working on the job, but then they did distance courses, correspondence paper courses through, University of Montana or Northern, which is up in Havre, Montana, several hours away. You take a quiz or a test and you wouldn't know how you did for weeks. Sometimes just a little bit archaic. And so we decided to approach a few things. We wanted to start Williams Academy, file it as a 501c3, so that at some point we can apply for grants. And if we got like vendors helping us with material, it would be a donation. But then along with that, we got accreditation, NCCER accreditation. So we got all their curriculum for plumbing, HVAC, heavy equipment operator, and CDL. And then we have our own LMS, like a learning management software.
Yep.
So we took all the curriculum, put it in our Williams owned LMS.
Wow.
And so all of our apprentices can do all their book work, practice quizzes, everything online. And then we built out an academy building at the far end of our property. And so this is more so less equipment operating, more so HVAC and plumbing, but we built framed in a 3-bathroom apartment, and we have tables on wheels where they can glue pipe and test it. And there's practice sinks, urinals, toilets, hot water heaters, boilers, everything's live. So if you're doing the apprenticeship, every couple of weeks, you can go on a Wednesday night and do a lab on what you just learned. Which wasn't really something that existed before. And then, by the way, you're also doing your hours. And so in Montana, HVAC and heavy equipment operating is not licensed. So that wasn't required for us to have those. Yeah. But this curriculum allows for a career path. It aided that career ladder. So even with an operator, we only wrote it up as a 2-year program. Yeah. If you're coming in at $26 an hour as a laborer, I think it's like $1.25 per book. And if you're going, so as you're going through these books and checking off, it kind of gives you some structure, and it kind of obligates the foreman. We have a full-time trainer in Williams Academy who can help if the job can't afford the foreman to be distracted. But if it's like X amount of hours in a skiddy, X amount of hours in a loader, before you can go to book 4, you have to have back, a certain amount of seat time in the excavator and backfill. So it gives them a path and kind of obligates the field leadership, like, hey, I got to give this kid a chance to learn. Yeah. And then they know they can come out the other side at, $32, $33 an hour, and they kind of have that path written for them. And same thing, equipment and HVAC are new this year. So we have 2 in heavy equipment, 5 in HVAC, and we have 70 in our plumbing apprenticeship. So
Wow.
that's, and Williams Academy hosts all of that, and that's the state of it right now. We also, part of this, we bought 2 simulators from 10 Star. And they're awesome. The company's awesome. The simulators are great. I think they usually have a booth at Dirt World and again on Con Expo. But best product that we found on the market, in my opinion. But then we bought a 28-foot race trailer and put so that we can roll them up into it. And Chark is our operator trainer. He was at school every day this week so far.
Really? What kind of schools?
High schools, yeah, mostly high schools. We had an event on Friday where we had 266 graders in our building, and so because it was National Manufacturing Day, so Belgrade School District sends kids out to field trips to different businesses, but we're the only company that takes all 260, and we have stations of welding, pipe, sheet metal fabrication, our simulators, just like a safety course. Our engineers build, like they lay out plans and you have to make the duct, like reverse maze. And so just to put the kids through and show them trade exposure. So that's an event. We have like construction events in Montana, like Digger Days is the Bozeman one where there's 3,000 families come through. So we have the kids there. But one of the big things is, so Shark goes to schools all through the school year, and he just is calling shop teachers saying, I can pull up for 2 days and we'll put kids through and they can have 5 minutes in the excavator and 5 minutes in the haul truck. And they get just that exposure, and the sims are so cool. But it's really just about trades awareness, that it's an awesome job. It's really awesome, to do that. We use the sims internally a little bit. We haven't fully maximized that yet as far as training current employees or doing a skills test when we hire somebody. But it does cut the learning curve down. And one of the coolest ways we've ever done that is Bozeman High School and Gallatin High School are the 2 big high schools in town. They are starting a trades program, which is awesome that's coming back. But they asked us if they said they wanted a 7,500 square foot gravel pad for some trades activities to be on. And we said, let us talk about it. So we came back and said, yes, we'll do it. But, we're going to talk to RDO and see if John Deere will donate the equipment rental for 2 weeks, which they did because they're great. And then we said, so Chark's going to come out. We're going to bring the sims. We want 4 students who want to go into the trades. So they gave us 4 kids. And over the course of 2 weeks, we put a kid in the seat of a simulator for a full day. And then the next day, they were in a skiddy or an excavator.
Wow.
And we dug the pad, brought in the gravel, rolled lifts, and built it. And the cool thing is we did it right at the end of the school year. So all their classmates were on the fence, like looking in, watching their peers, because there was a sophomore, a junior, or maybe 2 juniors. So it wasn't just like senior class kids about to leave. One of the kids interned for us this summer. 2 of them were sisters, and they both said they wanted to be equipment operators.
All right, you dirtbags. I want to give one last shout out to our own company, Phaser Marketing. At Phaser Marketing, we work with excavation, septic, and hardscaping companies, helping you take your online presence to the next level. Currently, we have a team of 21 full-time team members, and we know the industry. We've been in the industry for over 6 years, just as a business, but our experience runs even wider than that. So we can speak the language, we know exactly what to do and what roadmap to put you guys on. We work with over 80 clients currently in the United States and Canada, and hopefully expanding that soon. We have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 program that's clearly laid out for where you're at in business, whether you have a 6-figure, 7-figure, or 8-figure company currently. If you're interested and want to learn more about how we can take your online presence to the next level, feel free to shoot me a text. It's 218-234-7345, or you can check out our website and learn more. All of our pricing is on there. It's phasermarketing.com. Feel free to hit the button that says schedule a call. You can meet with Joe Casey from our team, and we'll get you started from there. So like I said, shoot me a text, 218-234-7345. Would love to even just jump on a call, learn more about your business, and see how we can really get things going, especially heading into 2026. So thank you guys for listening to the Dirtbags podcast. We've got an exciting last portion here with Josh. Excited to dive into it. This is episode number 105. Let's go.
Wow. And so just a really cool experience. We do the manufacturing thing in March. We would do it for high schoolers. Mm-hmm. But it's all like, all these kids are not going to come work for us. We couldn't take them.
Right.
But the greater community of Bozeman, if or beyond, if it gets them understanding that, because I really feel like if there's 500 kids a year that graduate in our county and want to go into the trades, how do we capture some guidance rather than like, hey, I'm a senior, I don't want to go to college. Who does my dad know? Which not to say that's a bad thing, but like I think some awareness and some direction is great. Obviously, like selfishly, we want some of them, but I mean, we couldn't take 30 graduates a year necessarily.
Right.
So my end goal, so that's all right now. That's Williams Academy today. The dream there is we want this to be essentially a vocational school. Anyone can go to it. And if our competitors want to come do labs, there's some things to figure out there of logistics and how would they do that and not feel like we're trying to recruit their people and protect those things. But if this could be a vocational school that anybody could go to, even our online courses, it's just available. We have a different key code if you're an external customer, and that because ideally I could fund more instruction because my goal would be if we get more full-time instructors, and I'm only really needing them for labs and maybe some of the outreach, maybe they can give 5 hours a week in the high schools. Or we do have a community college, Gallatin College here, who has some trades programs. Maybe they can go teach there. But just, we all win if there's more kids with direction, especially in the trades of realizing what they enjoy showing up doing. And so I do hope that it's more like, for Williams specifically, I want it to be competitive. I want to go through the school year being like, hey guys, we're only accepting 10 apprentices this year. Get your application in.
Right.
We're only going to select, the top. And so it's more competitive we know that, hey, because you can start the books as a senior, hey, every June, we're going to have X amount of high schoolers starting. And then they're 8,000 hours later, they're going to come out with a license. And so I'm hoping to build it something like that for Williams, for the community. But it's just exciting. I mean, it's really cool. And some of the fun side of the business to see the kids' eyes light up a little bit. And that was Friday's event. We had kids at all these stations, and then they all rotate kind of at the same time. And we brought in a surprise guest, which was our governor. And so right as they were all kind of rotating, we said, hey, listen up. We got a special guest who wants to say hi. And so then kids were kind of, those who understood what was happening, at least, were excited. He was signing signature, doing autographs, and but also cool that we have, a political scene here that understands the value of the trades too. But yeah, Williams Academy, it's like a super awesome, special project that is going well.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell even just seeing you light up talking about it and hearing you talk about it. And you mentioned too, the exposure, of course, for Williams companies. And I like how you bring in the competitive nature where yes, we want to help everyone, but also too, we want this to be a really good feeder system to show them, kind of what we're capable of. So great awareness and exposure for Williams, but also other businesses and the industry as a whole. I mean, as you and I have talked about, and you've been to Dirt World Summit, and a lot of people listening have too. And I think we all know what the future potentially has if we don't all step up, and just feeling like, we can all only do so much individually, but when we do it all together, it can really make a big impact. And awareness is such a big factor of that, hey, this isn't just a third option for you coming out of high school. This is this can be a first option career path in the trades. And man, hats off to you guys, but I am know how much work it's got to be, but at the same time too, it's deeper than that because there's the passion that you can hear in it. And man, it's really cool too that you have the support of the state. Like you mentioned, political support. You have. I could totally see this too expanding as you continue to take off of like, hey, there's a system here that we have built, and there's ways we can train properly and go outside of Montana and just continue to expand for the trades. But it takes a whole village, and especially even just with Williams Academy, it takes an entire village.
Yeah.
So
It's a big effort. And an added piece with Bozeman specifically as well that is gratifying is when I went home, like I said, and then I took that job in Texas. Well, part of it was I thought my earning capacity was very limited in Montana. And that's partly why I went. And then when I was trying to get back, it was actually difficult looking at a lot of jobs and, the pay cut to come back home at the time. A lot of jobs were that I was intrigued by, but it's so hard to recruit into Bozeman. Cost of living is on like the California, level.
Yeah.
But with this apprenticeship, I have 21, 22-year-olds making six figures. And so it's enabling that too, of if you don't want to leave, there is a path. You have to grind it, for that, the plumbing one is 8,000 hours. That's the longest one.
Yeah.
So you have to grind for a few years. But I was talking to a dad last month about it, and he's like, so what do you come in at? And I was like, mid-20s, and you come out in the high 40s. And he's like, it took me 20 years to scale that, $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, that's, I tell everybody, like when I have friends and, or meet somebody who's like, a disgruntled barista or bartender or like whatever, I'm just like, hey, maybe it's a pay cut for now, but what a great career. And you can afford to stay home.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just such a viable option, and it was a viable option, but now becoming more so. And I think it's a kind of a double-sided job market right now, where the one side that I'm seeing for our type of company, there's so many applicants where everyone's looking for a job. And on the other side that I can see both, all of our clients are looking to hire good people into the trades. And I'm like, guys, if you're looking for a job and a career path, we have answers. But I think showing them too that path and showing them what they can make and showing them maybe squashing some of those, some of the mindsets or some of maybe what their education system has taught them in the past, or maybe their parents had taught them or grandparents. And so just showing them that, hey, you can come from never running equipment or never being a plumber or thinking of being a plumber or any of that, and come into the industry with proper resources and training and have a great career path and a great life with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fantastic career path. And that goes back to, like my days when I was first working for that general contractor. When I get asked for advice, for as far as how I got where I got. And one of the things I always give people is never be above any job. Like that's, I started out as an intern in a construction company. And like I told you earlier, the gal who did like the office work, she was HR, she was payroll, she did all the administration. She quit like a month in. And so I was like, I got her job. And then, through that, I ended up working a lot in our finance side. I prepared all of our proposals at one point, ended up being the person who assembled all the bids on estimating on bid day. And so, but the thing is if you want to be someone who supervises those people, then it's really, really helpful that I've done payroll. It's really, really helpful that I've ran the Facebook, or I've bought all the office supplies before. And so that's, no matter what it is, if it's out there and you're hating your first season with a shovel, understand that in order to coach the next guy with a shovel, it's worth every minute.
Man, so well said. What a perfect sentence to wrap this one up. But before we wrap up, got to hear, and obviously we have Josh Montanye on the podcast, episode 105 of the Dirtbags podcast. Josh, before we wrap up, what type of book recommendations do you have for our listeners? And these, I got to remember, these are the OGs still listening. I think I don't have the official timer, but we're coming up on 2 hours with the ad reads and with everything in. So if somebody's still listening, which there are the OGs that are, what would you recommend that you've read? Any books, podcasts, things like that you'd recommend?
Yeah. So I used to be like crazy book reader, and I still do. But I'm like probably heavier podcasts these days. It's fine. I finally gave in to the podcast world, and actually, have you ever heard of Naval? He's like a tech guy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So in one of his, he was talking about how like people need to get over, and I was one of these people. Like, I have to finish the book. I have to go through this, and he was like, cherry pick the good stuff.
Yep.
And so that actually helped me to where now I do that a little bit more, where I easily listen to more podcasts and books than music by a long shot. So if I'm doing anything, I'm doing Audible. But right now with 75 Hard, I have to read physical books. So,
you can't. Yeah, that better not be an Audible or a Kindle.
No. So I'm doing more of that than I ever do. But for the just core basic books, like things that I throw out one-liners from or just build concepts around, Never Split the Difference. I know that's been said on here before. It's fantastic. And Radical Candor is another one that I read for round 2 last year. This year I read Extreme Ownership again. That's one of our favorites. Infinite Game is really good. That's the Simon Sinek one. But just on kind of, especially for business owners, when you're changing your mindset to like, what am I handing my kids? And this isn't just, hitting home run jobs left and right, and then you kind of burn your bridges. But how do I hit singles and doubles forever?
Yeah.
How do I build a team around that? Every Patrick Lencioni book I'll read. I love his stuff. There's certain authors that I will read every book that they write. And so that's definitely a big one. And the one that is unique, when I used the word one size fits one earlier, that comes from Unreasonable Hospitality. Such a good book. And just interesting, like obviously totally not our industry at all, but good stuff to think about with what are you selling and how do you knock their socks off?
Yeah. Unreasonable Hospitality. Who wrote that one again? Do you know?
Will, I don't know how to pronounce it. Will Giarda. Also, if you like his book and follow him on Instagram, he always posts, every time he travels, he goes to a bookstore and signs them.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I've never been lucky enough to be like crossing paths with him, but his TED Talk is awesome. If you want the summary, just go watch his TED Talk. But I just think he's a cool dude that like he'll randomly post on Instagram, hey, in the Las Vegas airport, the bookstore
so cool
next to Starbucks, and he'll sign a few of them, which is cool. But the concept, like you'll see in his TED Talk, of there's a story where he like ran a 5-star crazy high-end New York restaurant. And then he was overhearing 4 foodies talk about their foodie trip in New York City and how they're like listing all these 5-star restaurants. We hit this one, we hit this one, blah, 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 blah. Like, what a great trip. And one of them throws out a comment. The only thing we didn't get was a New York hot dog. And so he runs out the back of the kitchen.
No way.
Goes 3 blocks or something and finds a street vendor. And he brings in a hot dog. And he said, you got to watch the TED Talk, but he's like, the chef was like, no, we're not doing that. he had him cut the hot dog into 4 equal pieces and walks out and says, in your last course, a New York City hot dog. And he said, they just blew their minds.
That's incredible.
But so good. But that mentality, that's what I was talking about with like when you hear pinch points with your clients, how can you come up with that one thing that they're going to tell the story? So that bleeds into clients. It bleeds into employees. We have done that as well. We're hearing a conversation of, this employee who's been killing it and they're going to NFR. And so we'll go and like at their hotel, there'll be a package of like upgraded tickets or, dinners paid for, something kind of custom where you can blow their minds and their spouse is like, what, your employer Williams did this for you? Like just extra. And so I probably don't even do that enough, but we need to pay attention to know our people. And that's a great book for that. And then, we talked about obviously the dirt bags, a lot of,
come on, can't forget about them.
And then the only other podcast I don't miss an episode for is All In. The All In pod is really good. I love that one just because it's 4 tech millionaires who debate and talk. But I feel like I pick up on investing ideas and, some of that tech side of what's coming and some, it's not maybe some leadership, but like, Diary of a CEO is good, but I usually I'm selective. I'll watch their reels and make sure, which ones I'm interested in. Peter Attia has the one, The Drive. It's more health and longevity, but just to change it up. But those are all good.
With the Diary of a CEO, I'm the same way. I like the reels and the clips. And then I saw Kevin O'Leary was on. I'm like, I kind of like he has a different mindset around business, which I kind of appreciate because some of it doesn't line up with what I believe, but a lot of it does. And I listened to the whole, it's like 2 or 2.5 hours or so. And I was like, man, it was kind of refreshing to hear something different. Because and like I said, not that I agreed with everything, because one of the comments he made was like, if you don't have money, you don't have a marriage. I was like, well, I don't know. But you try and see where he's coming from. So, but that is a really good podcast I like, but definitely being selective with that.
Yeah. But I feel like you can be surprised. That's what I love is you can find little nuggets that you would not have normally done. And one of the recent ones for me on that one was, because I love learning and just absorbing new information I'm addicted to that. So I saw a reel on his with Matthew McConaughey was one of his recent guests. And it perked my interest enough. I went and listened to the full episode and it was awesome. And just some of the things he said, same thing, like you don't necessarily have to agree with every line, but a lot of his logic, whether it's marriage, parenting, life, I went and bought his book afterwards, just because I want to go through that. But
which book? Greenlight?
Yeah. I have Greenlights. I have not read that one yet. So that's
can't be an official recommendation until you've read it.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I was impressed with the podcast interview and just some of his character in that and how he was raised at some of the ways he thinks. So, you can pick up on skill sets of a leader and sticking to your guns and stuff like that you seem to do pretty well. But so anyway, those are all, I had this guilt like 2 years ago because I used to keep track of how many books I read a year. Yeah. And when the number was declining, I had anxiety about it, but no, pods are kind of like such a great way to grab nuggets. And if it's not great, move on. You're not quite as invested as you are in a book, but
yeah, I mean, you're clearly full of them. The sayings in just this one episode have been incredible. So yeah, I one of our big principles is lifelong learning and just making sure we're always learning and educating ourselves. And that comes in a lot of different aspects of life, but especially business. And I wasn't never much of a reader, but now that I'm pushing myself to read books I like, I'm like, I enjoy it. And so it's not the reading, it's the learning that I like. And so whether that's podcasts, audiobooks, or reading a book, and then as you mentioned, like with 75 Hard, you have to read a book. So you're like, all right, 10 pages, let's see what we got. And then you're like, man, this is so good. Yeah. And you just can't stop.
Yeah. Well, it's helped me because I don't love reading a book. And oftentimes I'm going so hard that if I sit still, I fall asleep. But it's been great because like I'll listen to Audible on like 1.8 speed, and having reading 10 pages, I actually am taking notes, and that's been pretty helpful.
Yeah, my wife Olivia, she does, believe it or not, 2x speed. I can't stand it. I can do like 1.6, I think is what I do listening, but especially podcasts, it's easy for those, I'm sure listening, podcasts are a lot easier, I feel like, to listen on a little bit faster speed, but 2x is a little too fast. So all right, Josh, what an episode. For anyone still listening, thank you for being a dedicated supporter of the podcast. As you guys know, this is a free show for you guys. We love getting to do this. Josh, is a blessing having you on. I knew we would absolutely dive in and not have enough time for everything. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for all that you're doing for the industry. It sounds like I'll see you at Dirt World Summit and Con Expo. So for anyone listening that want to come see me or come see Josh or both of us, Dirt World Summit, which by the time this comes out, it'll be, I think it's the first week of November. It's in Dallas, Texas, which will be great. And then Con Expo, of course, is, I believe, the first week of March. So be great to see you there, Josh. And like I said, again, thank you so much for everything. Super excited we got to record this episode 105. And for everyone still listening, we will see you on episode 106. So Josh, thank you for your time, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me.